I'm old. I'm 53. I don't know what I'm doing with this.
You're doing great. Thank you so much for allowing us to interview today. So I'm going to start with the intro, maybe get right into the interview, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining us for another interview with Philanthropy at its Best here on King Solomon Entertainment, where we honor and celebrate nonprofit organizations that are doing wonderful work and are changing lives one person at a time. And today we're here with another great organization, the Community Partners, the Community Foundation. The Community Foundation. And we're going to allow her to introduce who she is, and what she do for them.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Claiborne. I'm pleased to be here on this program and talking about philanthropy and the great nonprofits. So I'm Michelle Decker. I'm the president and CEO of what was called the Community Foundation, serving Riverside and San Bernardino counties. But we went through a rebranding, and now we are the Inland Empire Community Foundation.
Wow.
So yeah, we are serving all 27,000 square miles and 4.5 million people to the best extent that we can, supporting our nonprofits, strengthening our nonprofit sector so that they can, do what they do. They show up for our communities in ways that private businesses can't. I don't care how many ads I got to see about that stuff. We know who's doing the feeding and the sheltering and the care and the after-school programs and the arts programs and the equity work and the power building and movement building work. So that's who we're excited to work with. We're also the Region 7 administrative organization for the state census funds. And so we've been leading with our nonprofit organizations and county governments on census, which is still really critical. We are our LISTOS grantee for emergency preparedness for Riverside County, working a lot with the Irvine Foundation on priority regions work in the city of San Bernardino. So yeah, just adapt, respond, listen, and show up. And I'm happy to explain community foundations because they're kind of a quirky animal, if you would like me to, but I'll stop there. Thank you.
Yes. No, I just really wanted to, definitely intro who you are and the mission and the whole reason why an organization like Community Foundation is important, because you guys kind of helm and organize and steer kind of how everyone could come together and play a vital role in the bigger picture. And it seems like to you guys are like the vanguards of the organizing of how do I get involved? How do I help?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I restate these questions anytime you need to, because I will go off. So I appreciate that. So my background, I ran community-based organizations for 27 years in Baltimore City and in rural Ohio, and have always kind of followed the model of what in the field is called like participatory development. This idea that the people most affected by the problems actually should be at the center of the solutions. Yeah. And frankly, philanthropy for me was always a little bit of a headache because I was always raising money, and some funder would be like, "Do this, don't do that," and it was for a lot of my career, I really had a love-hate relationship with funding and funders. I went through breast cancer in 2017, and I kind of reevaluated all of those 27 years. And even though I believed in what I had done and I loved what I had done, a lot of it had been community development. I knew I wanted to make a change. And so this job opened up, and I applied because we have family in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Southern California. And it was really a match about how do you create impact in a community foundation. And so I've been learning what a community foundation can do, and it is a different animal. So you've got the Irvine Foundations or the Ford Foundation, fully endowed, do what they want, big money. Community foundations raise money locally, they keep it locally, and they're really close to the ground on the nonprofit organizations that are in their community. Historically, they work with donors and they take money, they invest that money for a return, and they reinvest that money into organizations through grants. Smart community foundations today do advocacy and policy work, and they do leadership work. So that is exactly what you were talking about how are you at the center, right? If we need to solve college attainment, we need a lot of people to come together to solve that. If we need to solve homelessness, and we're not at the center of all of these, I'm just using as
Yes.
examples, you know, or if we need to equitably disperse funds for census in partnership with nonprofits, we're sort of a neutral broker. So
Yes.
it's a little bit easy. And I say, you know, it doesn't mean we don't have a dog in the fight or we don't have outcomes that we want, but we don't have to scramble for the funds in the way that the implementing organizations do. So we can kind of show up and say, what does everybody want to do? Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
my daughter took our dog to the vet, and I think she's trying to figure out what. Anyway,
Yes. Go ahead. Continue. Because did you finish? Because it kind of
I will.
froze.
I'll stop.
Yes.
I'll stop.
So
I apologize.
yes. So the 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 role you play a lot of times when you say, okay, we're going to get involved in this particular issue. What is usually the process that and how you pick and choose what you actually get involved in and what do that look like?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the organizations doing the work.
Yeah.
So we want to be adaptive and responsive. Sometimes a donor will come to us and have a very particular interest. So we had a donor come to us and say, I want to help with feeding during COVID, but I want to also support local restaurants. So could you put out money? If I gave you $50,000 for nonprofits, could you find the nonprofits who could figure out how to purchase the food from local restaurants? Could you work with the local restaurants? So you do some of that matchmaking. So sometimes it comes from a donor. You know, the Irvine Foundation is very interested in the city of San Bernardino and the city of Riverside. They're very interested in inclusive economic development. So you go, okay, let's talk about that. But you go back to the nonprofit organizations. This week, right, with George Floyd, what did we do? We called Black-led organizations and we said, what's going on? Are you okay? And what do you want to do?
Yeah.
They have plans, they have ideas. I don't need to do it. I don't need to. Philanthropy does not need to figure it out. Philanthropy needs to show up,
Yes.
right? And have the love, have the care, but be willing to listen deeply to where the solutions are. And so I think we see that. We see that with immigrant justice. We see that with voting rights. We see that with arts and youth engagement. We see it with housing. So that's, to me, the exciting part of the process is you just make the space and you listen really deeply.
And so someone who wants to use you guys' services in being the missing link or being the person that facilitates bringing people together, bringing philanthropy and companies together, how could they receive services from you guys' office?
Well, there are a couple of things. If you are a grant seeker and you are looking for funds, there is information on our website, iegives.org, and it's a new website. Please let us know what you think. There are funds listed. So there are a couple of things. There are ways to give that are fairly easy. So there is right now an IE COVID Resilience Funds. We're
Mm-hmm.
on our fourth week of grant making with those. The money is dispersed across the Inland Empire. I think probably as high as maybe $500,000 now.
Mm.
So you can give to that, and you can know that there are a group of people getting that money out on the street. You can use some of the tools at a community foundation, like a fund. So people come to us and they say, I've made my money. I'm really happy. I really care about, young men of color getting to college. I'm going to open a fund and I'm going to put out, $5,000 in scholarships every year. And they're going to, and I want to support engineers, or I want to support scientists, or I want to support artists. So people can use some of those tools like planned giving. Sometimes people get windfalls. Sometimes people leave portions of a life insurance policy into a fund for a purpose. So we have a legal obligation to use that money in the way that the donor always wanted it used. There are other initiatives. So someone may come and say, and I'm picking on Irvine again, but like what can we do in San Bernardino? So we would say, okay, let's bring the organizations together. Let's talk about that. Let's learn about that, and let's see what the best investments might be. We just got money from the Gates Foundation to do policy and advocacy work with on educational issues. And so a big part of that money is going to be redistributed to organizations working on educational equity on the K through 12 side. So I suppose, James, the answer is get to know us, look at our website, see what our tools are, email, ask questions. We learn when we get asked questions for how we can show up. So
Yeah. And so what are some of the challenges, since you've been doing this the last 27 years and the new organization with Community Foundation, what are some of the challenges that you always seem to face with getting resolved? Like what's name some of the challenges that you guys be having problems with?
yeah, lots of ways to answer that. One last thing is we do put out media. We have a great marketing and communications director. We do an electronic newsletter. We do blog posts. We do communications. That's a good one, like annual reports and stuff like that. But some other materials. So what are some of the challenges? Great question. I think the Inland Empire in particular has a lot of small organizations. It has a lot of dreams and visions. How we support the building of the kind of the talent pool and the leadership pool to get some of these organizations to scale to solve some problems is something that a lot of us are looking at. How do we get small gifts to turn into larger gifts? We are a region of smaller gifts. We're not sort of swimming in a lot of billionaires, and that's okay. That is okay. We need to just sort of support those small gifts and more of those small gifts coming in. It's long term. I think that's the thing too. That's always a problem with philanthropy. It's always a problem in the nonprofit sector. I worked for a faith-based community finance organization in Baltimore City for a while, and I was having phones installed in the office. And the man comes in and he's installing the phones and he says, "Well, what do you do?" And I was like, "Well, we provide finance to change Baltimore neighborhoods and blah, blah, blah." And
Yeah.
he was like, "I put in phones." Like, right, our vision
Yeah,
is
yeah.
so big. We're always like the buffet, like my mom used to say, like your eyes are bigger than your stomach. Like it's
Yeah.
always, and that, and then you just got to say, well, those are the right ideals, those are the right visions, like real social justice, real equity, real transformation, the ending of poverty, more joy, more peace, more prosperity, more sustainability, right? It's got to
Yes. Yes.
include all ecosystems we're living in right now. Because,
Yes.
my son was asking me about nuclear bombs the other day, and I was like, well, we got one. It's a time bomb, and it's called climate change, and it's going
Yeah.
off, and nobody knows. So those are the right things, but then
Yeah.
it's the patience to implement, the discipline to implement, to, do it like,
No, I think you had the
yeah.
right idea when you said, just show up, because if
Mm,
you have a lot of challenges, and like you say, it's ongoing because it's the long term effect, and then you handle each piece of it with care. You're gonna tackle it as it happens. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
And you're gonna
mhm,
try to, like, the resolve kind of like speaks on the process,
mhm, mhm,
but you're showing up to get involved to make that resolve happen. And I think
mhm,
that's the genuine center of it all, when you handle each issue with care, especially topics
mhm,
like homelessness and just social change issues. And so that's the sincere apparatus the one should use. But
mhm.
as far as long term and the challenges that you have been witnessing after almost 30 years in the game, and it's 30 years in the career, like, what do you wish, what do you hope to see? Like, I know you say that the ambiguity is like, okay, I put in phones, but I just raise money. What do you wish that, in 30 years in the same field, what would you hope or wish to have happen as a result of what you do?
I can't separate the field from the politics and the climate a little bit
Yeah,
because,
yeah,
but, um, you know, maybe this resonates. It's that idea of being entrepreneurial
yeah,
and opportunistic.
yeah,
So right now, jump on it. What are the
yeah,
policies? What do we want? Let's
yeah,
ask. You know,
yeah,
uh, public health, we haven't funded it. We don't know how to educate our kids distance learning with distance learning. Let's figure it out.
yeah.
This is what we need. We need the digital divide closed. End of story.
Yeah.
You know? So I
Have you witnessed any impact changes since you've been working? Have there been success stories?
oh over my whole career, I think
Yes.
so we do learn. We do get smarter. This moment that we're having right now, this moment wasn't a 10 or 20-year moment,
Right.
right? We're learning, we're internalizing, we're passing it on to the next generation. We are figuring out, we're figuring out new ways of working together. We are crossing sectors. That's probably one of the most powerful things right now.
Yes.
So, you know, there isn't enough money to stay in your silo and to not reach across the aisle, or reach across, you know, if it's education, people need to be working with, you know, foster care, with housing people, you know, like it's all kind of mixing up. So I have a lot of hope right now for our ability to dream and innovate, and that's what I hope we can take a moment to center on. Um, yeah, I just feel like right now, with the way federal funds are flowing in, the way leaders are seem to be very confused about what to do. They need our solutions. They need the solutions from the community. So that to me is actually pretty hopeful. There's a
Yeah.
lot of learning. James, part of it is we've also become this country though where everybody does their own thing.
Yeah.
And even when you tell people like wear a mask, like everybody should, like we know from public health, everybody should be wearing a mask, but we're not going to tell them to. We just can't kind of hang together enough. I hope we learn to do that and to endow leaders and support leaders, change leaders where we need to, but but to also realize we can't all run as individuals in a different direction. And then I do think I like, okay, fantasy here is we just start to have some different models of financing the work that needs to happen,
Yeah.
right? If the private market won't do it, can we form co-ops? Can we form community owned, our nonprofit business structures, better structures? And
Yeah.
that's a big deal. But you know, working in markets, places where markets don't work,
Yes. Yes.
then you need a different answer. You cannot
Yeah.
keep waiting for the big money to show up so that the big money can make more money. That may not work in a lot of our communities. That's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm thinking now's the time to have crazy ideas.
Yeah. No, I really applaud what Community Foundation do, and what the work you're doing, because it's really life changing. And I think that once you show up and you do what needs to be done, and you you know, have a good conciseness of bureaucracy and human kindness, and know how to intertwine the two. And I think that's the difference between what Community Foundation does, and a total bureaucracy organization that's designed to do the same thing. You know, and I just think
Mm-hmm.
that it's needed. Like you said, you just showed up because it was needed. Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of bureaucracy, you know, is lethargic, and it never brings
Mm-hmm.
one resolve. You know that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we can be more nimble. And I will say, even though I have family in Southern California, new living here, IECF is a member of the League of California Community Foundations, and I have learned so much from the
yeah.
California Community Foundation in LA. The
Yes.
East Bay Community Foundation, led by James Head, who is now the chair of the league. We have brilliant leaders and such heart in that room. So I'm learning a lot from the whole.
Yes. Can you please just end with the message that you want to get, the sum up, the conclusion, the message you want to send to the people in our audience today about philanthropy and the work you do?
Yeah, I want to let you know that the Inland Empire Community Foundation is there. We are a set of tools and just good people who are trying to figure out how to show up for our Inland Empire. What are the issues? What are the concerns? What resources are needed in this moment of Black lives and equity, in this moment of COVID? And everything going forward. You know, we don't know what we face in the future. So you've got an organization that has a toolkit that can work for you. So let us know what that can be.
So please put your social media handles and everything out. Let them know how they can get in touch with you.
Oh, what am I doing? I don't,
Your
James.
your website, how they can get in
Okay.
touch with you. Yeah, please.
Okay. All right.
www.communityfoundation.org.
No, we got a new one.
Okay.
gives.org.
Okay.
And then, oh, Cherie's going to be so mad at me. She's
Okay. I got a card. I don't know if it's on the card.
I don't know what's on the card. So I'm gonna give, there's my email, there's our website. I think those are good places to start. We don't have an Instagram, James.
Okay. 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 Well, thank you so much for Community Foundation for joining us. Miss Michelle Decker was here. She's the president and CEO. We would want to thank you. Can encourage you guys to keep doing the wonderful work you're doing. Definitely reach out with them. Show how you can get involved. Show how you can partake in the grants and everything that they have to offer. The wonderful thing doing in the community. And you can reach us on Instagram, King Simon Entertainment, YouTube, James Clayton Interviews, Facebook, King Simon Entertainment, as well as King Simon Entertainment.tv on most social media platforms. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, definitely reach out, get involved, make a difference, and just keep being the heartbeat that's going to really change our society and make it the community that we all would love to be a part of and live in, and make it better for everyone. And thank you once again, Mr. Chef, for doing this interview with me.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you for giving us the time. Much
Thank you.
appreciated. All you do. Thank you,
Thank
James.
you so
Take
much.
care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.